ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the BKB National Wool Market Report, our first one for the new season. And we have quite an interesting panel today with Monica, Lindsay, Jock, and with Christian. And we're going to talk a little bit about BKB Pinnacle. That should be a word you're going to be hearing a lot of. Supply chain and a little bit of regenerative farming. So that will be our talking point for tonight. But first, let's have a look, Jock, what happened in the market today. I think we had quite a good first one for the new season. Maybe on the non-certified wools, not as good as we hoped, but on the certified side, I think we had an excellent auction.
Yeah, yes, like we had 50% of offering were non-certified wools.
Yeah.
And 19 and a half, 20 microns were top of the block today.
Yeah. Christian, I think you could maybe say something about that. In the past, we were a little bit hesitant for the size of the amount of RWS wool or certified wool on the auction, and we thought that it could be maybe too much. But today we had a huge offering, and it still went okay.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot of the farmers has asked about it. That what if the farmer group gets too big? And we've said that the South African clip is about 15% of Australia's merino. So in the context of that, we are not as big a supplying country. And we've seen now that this is the first sale that we had 50% of the whole auction being RWS. And on the 19, 20 microns on some of those lines, we had up to a 22% premium from the normal wools. So it was a really good sale. I would say, Jock, what did you guys have on the last? What did the market finish on?
I think we could be 10% dearer on the certifieds. Non-certifieds, I would say the market is unchanged.
Yeah,
unfortunately for them. But yeah, it was a good opening sale.
It was.
The rand was in our favour, and with all the gains that the Aussie market had after we've been closed last season, we kept our position, and I think that's a good start for the season. Yeah,
definitely.
But I think unchanged was still a good place to be, because the Aussie market went down by about 4% now when they started the new season.
Correct, yeah.
And but the rand weakened by about 4 to 5% against the US dollar, and the two cancelled each other out, and we remained unchanged. So I think it's not a bad place to start for the non-certified wool. But yeah, absolutely well done to the certified lines.
Yeah, I think let's see the Aussie market in perspective. It was 24% passing rate. Now that must have been chaos in the sale room.
Look, the first day we saw the market, so the 4% they came off is compared to where they closed. So they had a bit of a gain. That's why their finish they gained a bit since we closed. So they finished up more or less on par with us, if I'm correct. And I think the big thing, Jock, on that is that we saw the finer side dropping off almost 80 cents on the first day. And with the big passing rate, the good spec wools was in good demand. And then pulled back the market.
Yeah. Well, they had a big offering. Yes. So I could see that it must have been a lot of re-offers as well.
Yes.
They drought wool.
So their first auction was 57,000 bales compared to our 12,000 bales here in South Africa, which is a big sale for us. And then next week they have 44,000 and 37,000. So their volumes is coming down a bit. And also in South Africa we're having a 4,000-5,000 bale sales for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, next 2 weeks.
So we have a break between the second and third catalogue as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
The exciting part is, I think, if we compare on a year-to-year base, we are close to 18% selling dearer than a year-to-year. We were starting our first auction in the previous financial year on 136, our clean price indicator, and we're close to 166 rand now, 18% difference. So I think that's a positive side for the market. We're starting to gain momentum.
Yeah. What was actually nice to see today is SA mutton merinos, the 21, 22 microns,
Yes.
gaining 3%. We've seen it in the last two sales last season that they were picking up, and just they're following that trend at the moment, and that's
Especially on your better style mutton merinos.
yeah, obviously, yeah. Well, that is all that's in the market. It's out of the areas that have good rains,
Okay.
so they yield 70%, 72%. So that is good for white wools here.
On buyer side, we had Standard Wool, Moriano and TNU coming through as the top 3 buyers. And then, as I've said, going to hear BKB Pinnacle, going to hear that name quite a lot in the future. And Christian, well done for the first few lots you bought on today's auction. So Pinnacle had a good start for the day, or for the season.
We made a start. We made a start.
The book is open.
The book's open.
That works count out.
Then on producer side, I think we could take the time to congratulate Chappie and Tians Botha from Adelaide with 2 beautiful lines that they sold. One CFH bale of 15.6 micron, they sold for 220 Rand 20 cents, and 2 16.2 micron BFH bales that they sold for 220 Rand 10 cents. 2 beautiful lines, and the competition were fierce on them. So well done, Chappie and Tians Botha, excellent.
Yeah, so look at the top 10, and it's not just the 15.6, 15.6, 16.2 microns. There's 17.6, 17.4 micron that made the 200 mark, 203 Rand. And it's seals, there's a lot of seals. What we've seen today is that the deals is coming down, the shorter, and it's the non-combings. That's definitely a hard market that seems like it's falling apart now.
Seems like we could lose a bit of steam for the next 2 months. The winter season in China it will arrive too late for that, so we should see a bit of pullback on the shorter non-coming ones for the next month or so.
Yeah. Well, even the locks were unchanged. Well, there wasn't much offering. There wasn't much on the better side. There was high VMs and that. So yeah, if that can stand its ground, that would come good for.
Yeah, definitely.
Just one last one to mention. The third place was Gilly Harold from Beaufort West and his 4 sons, a family enterprise. So Gilly farming with all 4 of his sons, and they were selling 4 beam wire bales for 212 Rand 20. So well done, Gilly, with a great achievement. Then that's that around about the market for today. Then we can have a chat with Monica and Lindsay and Christian about Pinnacle. Lindsay, maybe tell us a little bit more about your role in BKB Pinnacle.
Sure. So I'm the Sustainability Manager for Wood and Mohair, and my role in Pinnacle is to engage our end market and to ensure our producers are producing accordingly and according to their sustainability goals that they are setting for themselves.
Monica, can I ask you the same question? What's your role in Pinnacle?
Yes. No, so I'm going to somewhat follow in the footsteps of what Lindsay is doing, and looking at both ends, looking at the on-farm practices that our farmers are doing, looking at regenerative agriculture specifically, but there's a number of different ways that you can look at that, and so working on specific projects around that, and also through the supply chain, gaining an understanding of how we can fine-tune the supply chain, and have the best environmental impact with the wool that's going through it.
Would we see some more brands coming out of it? We already got core, something more special.
Probably not, although I'll still be managing core, and core's been, it's actually an excellent case study for us. It's been a huge learning opportunity for us to understand what exactly happens to the wool once it leaves South African shores and goes through processing and then ends up in an end market. Now, at the moment, that end market has largely been South Africa, but we've made a lot of inroads at looking more international and also understanding that market. But then we'll lean on other brand partners also to understand other markets around the world.
Christian, maybe I've jumped the gun a little bit by asking Lindsay and Monica. Just quickly give us a brief explanation. Give us what is BKB Pinnacle, and maybe what advantages will it bring to our producers?
I think the aim for BKB Pinnacle has sort of become the chain in the value chain that shortens it. So we're looking to bring the end user closer to the farmer, and hopefully through that add more value to the end users, but also definitely bring the end user, by bringing the end users closer to the farmer, adding much more value to the farmer itself.
Okay, you've mentioned the supply chain, transparent supply chains. Why is it necessary in the markets that we are moving in today?
For sure. So around the world, transparent supply chains are necessary, and I don't think that there's a country that isn't looking at their supply chains, or a brand that isn't unpacking supply chains and finding those areas of value, and then those extras, as every supply chain has. So I think that we have increasing pressure from end consumers that are asking questions about those supply chains. So when somebody's buying a garment, they're not simply buying a product without asking questions. They want to understand where it was farmed, where it came from, what processes it went through, which countries it went through. They really are asking those questions, and brands are under immense pressure to be able to answer those with assurance and not make greenwashing statements and marketing claims that they can't back up. There's also a lot of pressure from advocacy groups where brands are being held accountable now. They can't simply say this was organically sourced or this was sustainably sourced. They actually need a paper trail and proof impact on how that was actually farmed and the claims they make are in fact true.
You could maybe drop us a few names. Who are you busy talking with, engaging with, and what kind of conversation are you having with the brands?
It's all very exciting. So being the largest supplier of RWS and RMS does come with benefits, and that is that all the commitments being made around the world to source those products are obviously putting BKB right in the center of that conversation. So we're engaging most luxury brands, a few fast fashion brands as well, to see how we can try and help them as well. And then also every member of supply chain. We're speaking to processors and spinners around the world. We're speaking to other producing countries, different organizations. We're applying for different grant funding for our farmers to implement what Monica will be talking about, to try and assist that process. So it's all, I can't drop a name unfortunately, but it's all very exciting, and I'm sure we'll see some news soon.
Okay, wonderful. Exciting news to come, hopefully.
Yes.
Monica, regenerative farming. Maybe tell us a little bit more. What's the trends that you see emerging from our end market in terms of sourcing?
Yeah. So not to be a broken record, but exactly what Lindsay has said. There's a lot of brands that have been coming out with claims and saying that they're creating sustainable products. I can even say firsthand that I've just spent a little bit of time back at home in the US and really seeing how much that conversation has shifted over the last few years, because it's been 2 years since I was in the US last, and just seeing people's conversations and wanting to really understand more. And you can't just make a claim, like you can't just say that a product is carbon neutral. How is it carbon neutral? Are you doing carbon offsets? Is your supply chain in fact carbon neutral, which is unlikely, so it's most likely carbon offsets. And then we're also finding that, when you dive into that, I mean, it just really opens things up very wide, because understanding exactly how carbon offsets work, not all of those are created equal. And so, I mean, there's a huge can of worms almost at the moment, and so we're really just trying to pick that all apart. We're only as good as the information that we have, and so it's really just about gaining an understanding of where we're at and what sort of impacts we can have as far as the climate is concerned. And it is something that consumers are becoming more and more aware of.
So that's what's going to make the difference between just plain sustainability programs and certified sustainability programs. So that's going to be the difference between the two in a few years, if you can certify what you say you're doing.
Absolutely, yes. I think that Textile Exchange are also looking, they have their own Climate Plus strategy, and they're looking at ways to actually include this into that program so that it wouldn't be something separate in future. It'll actually form part of your RWS RMS. And I also think it should be viewed as something that's really positive for the producer. It's a way to really understand your land and learn more, learn from your neighbours, and utilize your land to its best capability. So it's not necessarily just a rule that's coming from the international world. It actually impacts the future of your farming and generations to come.
Monica, you're going to be quite busy with the regenerative farming concept. How's BKB addressing the focus on the regenerative farming? And maybe quickly tell us what it entails. What is the regenerative farming?
Yeah. Well, the basis regenerative farming is purely just the environment actually being better after, after the sheep have grazed it or grazing in a manner that the land is in fact regenerating and not degrading. Now, and it's not to say that any farmers are doing anything wrong. That's definitely not what this is about. It's actually understanding on-farm practices and then amplifying those that are working really well. So if anything, what the outcomes should be is actually there should be more feed, even in years of drought. And just being able to utilize your land, your properties better, to be able to utilize the sheep to their fullest extent. And so it's really, we're looking at a number of different projects, so it's not going to be a one size fits all. It's actually going to be, we're going to be working with farms in a few different areas to really understand the farming better, because at the same time we can't just go to a farm in the Eastern Cape and say, okay, you guys need to do this, and then do the exact same thing, in the Northern Cape. So it's really going to be a very tailor-made solution, and through that, it's going to be audits. It's not going to happen overnight. It's very much a learning process for everyone, but it's really figuring out and honing in on each farm what the best practices are to regenerate that land to be better for the sheep and better for the environment and better for everyone on it.
I think there's a lot of farmers that qualify already for it, but there's no proof of it.
I think that's a big part of it, Jacques, is maybe just showing the world what we're doing, because if you didn't look after your land, you wouldn't be on your farm anymore. So I think, and I think that's an important part to share, exactly like Monica just said now, just sort of having the audits and that type of stuff, and showing what we're doing, and maybe how to do something a little bit better,
and get it on paper. Get it at a credible.
That's ultimately what it is actually being able to prove that you've done it. So it's not that nobody has considered, I think every South African farmer has considered their land in some way. But for a brand on the other side of the world, they can't just take our word for it that some farmer in the Eastern Cape is doing what we're saying that they're doing. We actually need to be able to prove it.
So we need international standards to be able to convince them, and that's what you're working towards,
Exactly.
Monica, Lindsay, Christian, Jacques, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. And then we will be, next week, we will have our second auction for the new season. And same time, same place, we will have a market report ready. Thanks a lot for everyone listening.